You have to model and practice it a lot. And that might be, I just know with 9-year-olds, they have to do things over and over again to really start to internalize it and to start using it in other areas when they're not specifically practicing it. So a lot of modeling and a lot of practice.
In terms of what you might want to model for the students, you could model how to speak politely. You could even give them sentence stems or question stems.
Then as far as modeling behavior, you start off small. And it is simply grabbing that kid that you know that will play along fast and listened and heard and sitting down. And I usually start with what I don't want to see. Because generally that's the behavior we've already been seeing in the classroom. So I'll do a turn and say, well, I got A. What did you get? B. Okay, we're finished. And we know that's not what we want. And so then we'll show what it should look like.
Okay, so the poem we're going to look at is Study in Orange and White. Has anyone read it? We have not read it. Okay. And what we want to do is we're going to read it stanza by stanza and stop after every stanza and talk about it. And then we're going to talk about what we think is going on and how we know. And that how we know is going to be really important. Okay, so we're reading it silently, the first stanza, and then we'll talk about it.
Annotating as we go.
Annotating as we go, yep. We good? Yeah. Okay. What do we know? Well, I initially was like, I have no idea who James Whistler is, and then it said it was part of the Paris scene, and I just guessed Paris art scene, and then it continued on, and it said, but I was still surprised when I found the painting of his mother, and then I was like, oh, Whistler's mother is a painting. It's that old lady with like the whatchamacallit phone in her ear, and she's sitting, she's like you see her side view, and she's sitting listening to something. And
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not,
Yeah, I was thinking,
Oh.
how did you know that?
okay, yeah, it's a famous painting, Whistler's mother is. And then I figured, okay, well the original must be housed at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. And then I thought, but I didn't know that it was with like colored dots. I thought maybe we were supposed to pay attention to its like brush strokes and stuff, but that's all I knew from. So I like used background knowledge on Whistler's mother.
Well, I'm glad you had that, because originally when I was reading it, I thought maybe James had painted the portrait of his mother, based off the way it was read, and now, I don't know. I don't know. Now I'm more confused, but maybe we'll figure it out.
I know I didn't have any background knowledge coming to this other than I guessed that Musée d'Orsay meant museum. And I was left with the questions, who is James Whistler? Why is the speaker surprised about finding this painting? And is it important then for me to know what the Paris scene is? It kind of reminded me of Great Gatsby for some reason. I was just thinking of this era where everything is kind of the same or over the top. I wasn't sure what that meant.
I always forget to think about the speaker, and you're always so good about reminding that. So I knew that James was. So maybe he's like a student too. Well, and you look at the title; it says "Study in Orange and White," so
Right.
he's learning something too. Maybe.
Who was that I?
Yeah. We don't know who I is.
Okay, so when I looked at this, I kind of got excited and a little bit, I was a little bit relieved because I went, James Whistler, I know that name. How do I know that name? going, I put art, but I know the painting, and the reason I know the painting is totally out of context of knowing him. Is the lady who used to babysit me when I was little? she had it, and I'm like, that is that woman. I always used to think she's super old, and it's all in blacks and grays, and it's all in profile. That is the weirdest thing to have on a wall. And she has a white bonnet that comes down, and I knew it from that. But then I've been to the Musée d'Orsay, so I've seen it there. And that all made sense. And so my question was, I'm interested. That piece of background knowledge I was glad to have. But I don't feel like you had to have it. However, it helped me with understanding or having the question, I wonder why he's juxtaposing this very gray and very dark. I mean, it's bright with the bonnet, but everything else is really dark. Juxtaposing that with all the colored dots and the brush strokes of Impressionists, who I know it's light, and it's all about light, and it's all about, I guess, perception even, or how light hits things at different times of the day. So I saw that contrast, I guess.
Well, I didn't even think about like the grays and the darks, but then we think about the title too, and it's in orange and white, so maybe he's going to focus on colors.
Right.
So I'm glad you thought about colors, because I didn't even think about that. Okay, do we want to do the next stanza? Okay.